Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to take our last lecture this year, and it is going to be devoted to selection and use of aids. Well, before we start talking about aids, probably it would be good to define them, right? So aids are the resources and equipment available to us in the classroom, right? As well as the resources that we can bring into the classroom ourselves. Well, these might include different things like an overhead projector or some like a computer or a laptop, some posters, some visual aids like flashcards as well. Also, these could include some realia, and of course, the teacher himself or herself can be a teaching aid. So how do we choose aids? Well, there are two factors you have to consider. So your main aims and your subsidiary aims. I mean, the lesson main aims and subsidiary aims that would influence what kind of aids you are picking. Okay, well, now we are going to do a kind of task with you. So I'm going to show you a piece of equipment, some aid, for example, a blackboard or a whiteboard, and I'm going to give you the direct main like teaching purpose of this thing. For example, we usually use a blackboard for writing up planned vocabulary, grammar, examples, and explanations, right? And I want to ask you to think how else you can use a blackboard or a whiteboard in your class. So what could be other possible teaching purposes of this aid? Well, I'll leave you answers here, please. Thank you. Well, I'm going to share some of my ideas. So you can use the blackboard for writing down ideas that come up during the lesson. Of course, you can improvise. You don't have to prepare things, sometimes. Drawing or displaying pictures there, organizing ideas into diagrams, into mind maps, visualizing the information. Well, you can expose it to your learners to write the answers, for example. And of course, you can use it for whole class compositions when you are writing on the whiteboard and your class is feeding you with some ideas. This could be a good model work before they write their own compositions, for example. Okay, let's take another piece of equipment, this time projector. So its main teaching purpose is displaying prepared exercises. Well, what other teaching purposes can you think of? Thank you. Well, displaying results of group work, of course, if they have been doing some task work, if they have been doing some project, they could show other students in the group what they have created. It could be, for example, a presentation or a video. Building up information layer by layer. This is something I'm doing with you at the moment, right? I'm instructing you and I'm revealing the information layer by layer using PowerPoint. So you can be doing the same thing, teaching grammar, for example, covering and uncovering images, displaying pictures or diagrams. You can use some animation as well here. Well, and displaying digital books and course books so that you students can always keep on track with where you are in the course book. Okay, next thing is a TV screen. So typically we use it for listening practice plus added visual information, right? So how else can we use a television screen in your class? Thank you. Well, for information gap tasks, let me explain. It is when, okay, you seat, you place half of your class, their faces to the screen, so they would be able to see like what's going on there. And you place the other half of the class sitting backs to the first half of the class, so they would be sitting backs to the television screen. They would only be able to hear the sounds, right? And you are asking the first guys to explain in real time what is happening on the screen to the second part of your class. And it could be a short clip or some piece of video or maybe a piece of a movie. Okay, and after you have run this, you put them into groups of two, into groups of, okay, you put the first ones together and the second ones together, and you ask them to collaborate and to write the description of what they have seen or what they have experienced, yes, during this task. And then as they have got their compositions, you can compare them and see if there are, how much information loss there is when you compare the compositions created by the first group and the second group. Well, viewing with sound off and guessing the language, of course, yes, you can use the visuals in this case. Pausing and predicting what's going to happen next, very good for prediction language like going to or due and so on and so forth. Filming and displaying learners' performance, right? It can be part of your TBL work. Well, doing digital interactive activities such as Kahoot, quizzes, and many others. Okay, well, another thing is a smartphone. So how can we use it typically? So calling parents, of course, and complaining about the naughty kids, right? What other purposes can you think of? Thank you. Well, sharing links and information. This is a very direct way to share like links to websites. Instead of displaying things on a television screen, you can just drop everyone a link and they can be, exploring websites through their smartphones, right? You can drop the keys to some individual students as they are carrying out some tests or some exercise without having to share with the whole class, right? So it gives you some flexibility with what students get what share of information. And of course, it's very good for information game activities. You send half of the information to one student and the second half of the information to the second student, and then you ask them to communicate and to find out the information that is missing, right? Okay, it can be good for voting and collecting statistics. And it can be good for interactive digital activities that we have just been talking about in the previous point. Video and voice recording, of course, it's very convenient if you have got some silent corners in your school. You can actually ask your student to record their voice messages when they're doing some speaking activities. Thus, you would be able to listen to their voices later and maybe evaluate and pay more attention to every student this way. Okay, well, oh yeah, so what other aids can we use? We have already mentioned Realia, right? So we have mentioned flashcards and puppets, right? And we have also mentioned the charts that you can use in your classroom. So the charts are the diagrams that show information, right? And we have mentioned the teacher. So, well, again, I'm going to ask you to do something for me. What different uses can you think of for these aids? Okay, so please try to talk about every point. Try to talk about Realia and flashcards and puppets and charts and the teacher in one big message. I don't want to split it into several messages, right? So please, can you tell me what other ideas you can tell me how we can use this Realia, how we can use these aids in our classroom? Thank you. Okay, well, I'm going to give some of my ideas on how we can be using this thing. So, Realia. Well, these are real objects that we can easily bring into the classroom, yeah, and they can be used to teach vocabulary, as prompts for practicing grammatical structures or for building dialogues and narratives for games and quizzes. Well, Realia also includes real texts such as menus, timetables, leaflets, yes, that can be employed in your role play activities. Okay, as for the flashcards, like Realia, flashcards can be used for teaching individual words or as prompts for practicing grammatical structures. Yeah, for example, a number of pictures that can help you tell a story or that can help your students produce some sentences using present continuous, like what the person is doing in this flashcard. Well, Very straightforward, I guess. Well, puppets are an excellent resource for teaching young learners. For example, we can introduce new language in dialogues between pairs of puppets or between one puppet and the teacher. Children can also make their own simple puppets and interact with them, well, creating again role plays and dialogues. As for charts, we can use posters and wall charts. Wall charts are the drawings or graphs that can be put on the wall of a classroom to display larger, more detailed pictures, or a series of pictures telling a story or showing related objects in a lexical set. A phonemic chart shows the phonemic symbols and the positions in the mouth where the different sounds are made, so the teacher can point at the symbols to prompt learners to correct their pronunciation. We can also use charts to display diagrams, prepared drawings and tables of the regular verbs, for example, or to build up a class dictionary as well. So the teacher can use hand gestures, facial expressions, mime, well, actions which express meaning without words. Yeah. So to elicit vocabulary items, to clarify the meaning and maybe to create the context. So we can also build up a set of signals such as finger correction, which learners recognize as prompts to correct their own mistakes. Okay, so let's go on. Well, I'm going to give you a few tips on how to employ aids in your classroom. Well, the first one is just, it's a good idea to divide the blackboard or whiteboard into different sections for different purposes. As you can see in this example, here the teacher is, well, she has got, on the left of your board, she has got the nouns, well, she has got the different parts of speech, yes, and then on the right side of the board, which is recyclable information, so to say, yes, she is defining what she's talking about. For example, particularly now she's talking about nouns, and she's just demonstrating she's demonstrating what nouns could be and what categories they can fall into. Okay, well, you can include diagrams in your lesson plan for different stages of the lesson, right? Okay, prepare aids in advance. Aids that you can prepare in advance, like charts, flashcards, and transparencies for, okay, flashcards, will help you to make sure that the lesson procedures match your aims, right? Another advantage is that you can save such aids and reuse them in future lessons, right? But really, it's a good idea to think about preparing them in advance, because when you are inside the lesson, it is very difficult to, to start finding something, and it is very, very inconvenient. Okay, well, make sure that you check any equipment before the lesson. Use, you can use the different marks on your recordings to note where the recording begins, so that you can find the place easily, where you can find the file easily. For example, if you're using the desktop computer or laptop, you can place the files in a succession on your desktop, so that you would always be ready to find some certain file that you will need to use during your lesson. So, and of course, check that everything works, everything functions, and it's not gonna get, some unexpected problem during the lesson. Okay. Well, if you use computers, it's very important to plan and sequence your instructions very carefully, yes, because again, if something drops out, it will be very difficult to restore the sequence of things. So please think about sequencing the aids and how you use them. Okay, so now we're going, well, actually that's it about the theoretical part of our lecture today, and now we're going to get some practice. Which aid is this teacher talking about? I can prepare lots of materials in advance, and I do not have to make lots of photocopies. What is the person talking about? And this could be a projector or a TV screen, right? That can help you save your papers. Well, it gives me a chance to listen to all the learners individually. What could that be? Okay, and that is, well, these are smartphones, right? We have mentioned this thing. Whenever I travel abroad, I collect all kinds of things to use in class. What does the teacher mention? Realia. Menus, newspapers, everything you can fetch with you when coming back from a trip. I use them as prompts for a dialogue with the whole class, then give them out to pairs so they can practice. Flashcards. I always use one part of it as a kind of notebook for new words. This is a blackboard or a whiteboard, right? It gives learners the most realistic kind of listening practice. And this is a video. This helps with tests, grammar, and vocabulary exercises, dictionary work, research, just about everything. Okay, the teacher was talking about the internet, of course. Good, thanks. Well, now a little bit of your reflection time. What do you think? Well, think about the aids you use most often. What learner characteristics make some aids more successful than others in different classes? So what does your experience tell you? If you have this experience, if you're not a teacher yet, you can skip this point. Thank you very much. Well, what are the advantages and disadvantages of using technical equipment in the classroom? This question is for everyone, please. Thank you. Oh, excuse me. Think about planning, motivations, and technical problems that you might have, right? I'm sorry, I have forgotten about this footnote. Now, please do your talking. Okay. Which aids are the most motivating for your learners? Again, this is a question for the teachers. So games for your learners, maybe some digital things for the teens, right? This is only for teachers. Thank you very much. And of course, time for TKT. Well, we have got a teaching purpose. For example, we need to show learners pictures or answers to tasks prepared before the lesson. And we have got a number of aids. Well, we've got Realia, we've got projector, puppets, video, smartphone, computer, phonemic chart, and blackboard or whiteboard. So which aid will fit our purpose? And of course, this is a projector. Okay, you want to remind learners about pronunciation. Which is best? Now, phonemic chart, congratulations. Well, you want your learners to work for themselves and improve their performance. Ask them to use their smartphones. You want to give learners listening practice with visual context. This is what video is for, isn't it? You want to note down new vocabulary items throughout the lesson. Use your blackboard. You want to bring small things from the world outside into the classroom. So you will bring Realia, right? Well, you want to ask learners to find information for project work independently. Oh, that's a difficult choice, isn't it? Thank you. This would be a computer. Well, my dear friends, I think that we are done for today. Hope you enjoyed the short lecture and have a good holiday.